There's a visible U.S. focus on wooing African countries as it looks to counter growing Chinese presence on the continent. That's exactly what comes through in a recent flurry of high-level U.S. visits to Africa amid a tug of war of influence between two rival powers. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to travel to Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia later this month. These are notably the three countries with the highest levels of borrowing from China. Harris's trip will make her the highest-ranking official in the Biden administration to visit the continent, and she's not the only one. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also visiting Ethiopia and Niger this month, where, according to the U.S. State Department, will discuss the implementation of the agreement to advance peace and promote justice in northern Tigray and Ethiopia. This will be his second visit to Africa in 2 months. Then there are Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield, and U.S. First Lady Jill Biden, who've already visited recently. Jill Biden's trip focused more than diplomacy. She visited places in East Africa hit by drought and met some Maasai women in the region. She also appealed to other nations to join the United States to end their suffering. All these visits, diplomatic ties, and calls for human aid come down to one main point, and that's an intense competition between China and the United States over their presence on the continent in terms of economy and the military. The fact remains that China is way ahead of the U.S. when it comes to economic ties with African nations. But at the same time, the U.S. is leading the race when it comes to military presence. Beijing has only one military base on the continent in Djibouti, while the U.S. has more than 10 sites where some 6,000 soldiers are deployed. At stake also is access to Africa's huge mineral resources on which a large part of their respective industry does depend on.